The video you are seeing on your screens was, for many, the beginning of a public exposure and the beginning of the end for a content creator. She recorded it when she found out that her husband at the time, who was a sports coach for teenagers, was taking advantage of one of the girls he coached. And in the end, when she recorded this, she didn't know that uploading it to the internet would end up costing her her life. If you want to know everything that happened, stay with me until the end of the video. Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Lesma. I hope you are doing very well. As always, I'm very happy to be here with you for another day. I'm very grateful that you are watching me from wherever you are. Today we have a case that happened in the United States, that of Sarah Duffy. Join me to see all the details. Sarah Gilson was born in 1983 in the United States and grew up surrounded by a community that described her as a warm, bright girl who was deeply connected to her faith. She had a very peaceful childhood and adolescence, and over the years, she started a relationship with a guy named Lyle Landers, with whom she had 2 children. This relationship ended, but it resulted in a stable and very respectful co-parenting arrangement. For those who knew Sarah, she was the kind of woman who supported others, even when life got tough. She lived in a suburb north of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and worked as a hairstylist. Her salon was more than just a workplace. It was a space for conversation, venting, and laughter, as Sarah listened, gave advice, and supported her clients. Her ability to connect also translated to social media. Besides that, she also had time to find love again. And in 2019, she met a basketball coach named Jeremiah Sean Duffy, and they got married that same year. The 2 of them quickly started uploading content to digital platforms. She talked about her daily life with humor, reflections, and also shared moments with her children and spontaneous conversations. In addition to showing her day-to-day life, what she was going to wear, what she was going to cook, she was really a very ordinary lifestyle content creator, while he uploaded everything related to the sport he was passionate about. And so, little by little, the 2 of them started to become a fairly well-known couple on social media. Both had a very powerful personal brand, but the marriage wasn't as good as it seemed on social media. Around 2021, things started to get very ugly between them. And that year, Sarah filed for a restraining order against Jeremiah. Mind you, over time, they patched things up, and it seemed like they were trying to smooth over their differences and move forward. But in the end, things didn't turn out well at all between them. The story of Sarah and Jeremiah was heading down a path that would end at an irreversible point. Around 2025, they decided to take some time apart. However, they didn't announce it on social media. And on June 10, 2026, Sarah filed for an emergency protective order against her husband at the time. She explained that Jeremiah had a gun, had threatened to take his own life, and had fled after being confronted about his serious behavioral issues. On that occasion, the judge ordered the man to leave the house and stay 30 meters away from both Sarah and her children. The order was extended until August 24, 2026, and with this, an active protection was established on paper. But on July 10th, something happened that would change everything. That day, the mother of a 15-year-old girl on the team Jeremiah coached filed a protective order on behalf of her daughter, claiming that the man had kissed and touched her inappropriately and that another coach had witnessed the incident. The minor also stated that the man sent her messages, invited her to a hotel room during a tournament, and even offered her money to keep quiet. The police received the report and it was filed as a very serious accusation. In addition to that, as we can see, it was backed by a witness. Sarah found out almost immediately, and the next day, July 11th, she posted a video that went viral. She participated in a trend inspired by documentaries. This time, it wasn't something humorous. In it, she revealed that she had just discovered her husband was involved in inappropriate behavior with a minor. The text accompanying the post read exactly as follows: "Getting ready for when Netflix releases a documentary about my future ex-husband, who I just found out is a pedophile." And then she added, "I wish I was kidding." Sarah looked serious, and it was a public warning, a message that showed fear and exhaustion. After this video, Sarah only posted twice more. On July 16th, she shared a clip with a friend, reflecting on the importance of female friendships during difficult times. And her last post was on July 21st, in which she appeared sitting on a boat looking at the water, with a message that seemed like an attempt to process recent trauma. It seemed like a mix of hope and plea. With this background, we reached July 23, 2026. That day went by seemingly normally in Sarah's life. She attended to her duties as a mother and also at her salon, with a message that seemed like an attempt to process recent trauma. It seemed like a mix of hope and plea. With this background, we reached July 23, 2026. That day went by seemingly normally in Sarah's life. She attended to her duties as a mother and also at her salon. But at night, the situation would change violently. Shortly after 11:15 p.m., a call came into the emergency center. It was Sarah's youngest son calling from inside his house. His voice was shaking, and he could barely explain that something terrible was happening. The operator heard a woman's screams and a loud noise that sounded like a gunshot. After this, the call was abruptly cut off. The boy managed to get out of the house and ran to a neighbor's home. And from there, he made a second call saying that his stepfather had shot his mother. Authorities mobilized immediately, and when officers entered the house, they found two lifeless bodies: Sarah, who was 43 at the time, and Jeremiah, 48. Both had gunshot wounds. The boy who had called was physically unharmed, but mentally he wasn't, because he had witnessed the entire scene. He was then taken to a safe place, and his initial testimony was very fragmented. He spoke of screams, a noise, fear, running. For the detectives, the boy's testimony was going to be very important, but the crime scene also had to speak for itself. Forensics started with the weapon found in the room, which was near Jeremiah's body. They lifted prints, recorded the exact position, and analyzed the wounds. The trajectory of the bullet, the distance of the shots, and the gunpowder residue indicated that Sarah had been shot at close range, and that he had a wound consistent with taking his own life. Furthermore, the weapon only had his prints, and there was no evidence of any third party. And while the forensic team worked, detectives reconstructed the context. They spoke with neighbors, reviewed security cameras, and confirmed there were no signs of forced entry. Likewise, investigators reviewed the background, the protective order, the girl's complaint, and also Sarah's social media. The video that had already gone viral became a key piece of contextual evidence, as it showed that the woman had publicly accused her husband of the inappropriate behavior he had engaged in. For investigators, the video wasn't direct proof, but it was an indicator of the couple's emotional and social state in the days leading up to the events. They also reviewed recent messages, calls, and communications, but no explicit threats were found in the hours prior. However, there was a history of built-up tension. With this, the sequence began to take shape. Jeremiah violated the protective order, entered the house, and shot Sarah with her son as a witness, and then took his own life. As we already know, the audio of the emergency call captured all the screams and the sound of the gunshot. In legal terms, this case couldn't proceed to a trial because the person responsible was already dead. There would be no criminal process, no defense, and no verdict. What did remain pending was an official record of the previous accusations against Jeremiah, especially the complaint from the girl he coached. These documents were archived as part of the history, since there was no possibility of continuing a prosecution either. And while the investigation was closed in technical terms, life around the case went on. Sarah's friends, family, and followers began sharing messages of grief and shock. A fundraising campaign was also created to support her children, who were left in the care of their father. The campaign exceeded $16,000 in a few days. This amount was intended to cover immediate needs, counseling, education, funeral expenses, and other costs. In the description of the fundraiser, those who knew Sarah remembered her as a dedicated mother, and several close friends also shared memories of her. The community then organized a vigil in Sarah's honor. Friends, neighbors, clients, followers, and people who had never met her gathered to remember her. There were candles, flowers, photographs, and handwritten messages. The vigil was not a farewell, but a call to reflect on domestic violence. In the following days, Sarah's case became a turning point on social media. Many people pointed out that the video had been a reflection of a story marked by prior violence and very serious accusations. Other people reflected on the role of social media as a space where victims seek support. The tragedy left several open questions, especially about the supposed protective orders, access to firearms, and the safety of minors in sports activities. It also left a more intimate reflection, that of a woman trying to rebuild her life and protect her children, but who in the end met a terrible fate. However, Sarah managed to do what many victims don't: speak up and walk away. She exposed a painful truth, and she didn't do it to get attention or create controversy. She did it because she was tired and in the end needed some support. Her death left several questions that don't have simple answers. What more could have been done for her? What more could the system have done? How many signs were ignored? Sarah is gone, but her truth remains in everyone who hears her story. Her life deserves to be told with respect, and her death deserves to be understood as an urgent call to listen, believe, and act. And well guys, that's it for today's video. A very shocking case, very hard too, because in the end you're left with the feeling that justice won't be served, because the main suspect, or well, the person who took Sarah's life, also took his own. Besides that, there won't be justice, not just for this girl who came forward. We really don't know if Jeremiah had already done the same to other minors, and in the end he won't have to answer to the law. He took a very cowardly way out because he knew he had to answer to the law for all these accusations. We can also think that it really hurt him that Sarah exposed him to people, and that's what many of these people often do. They feel bad when the people around them expose who they really are. We can also think that it really hurt him that Sarah exposed him to people, and that's what many of these people often do. They feel bad when the people around them expose who they really are. In the end, Jeremiah presented himself as someone good, smiling, and kind, but often these people who are so kind, who show themselves so well to society, hide very dark secrets, and in the end, when they are exposed, they can't handle the pressure and end up doing this kind of thing. Something very sad. In the end, Sarah had 2 children who are left without their mother. The good thing is they have their father, and you can see they have a great support network that will help them get through this whole situation. Even harder for Sarah's son, who was the one who saw this whole situation. Quite tragic. If you found this video informative, remember to leave a like and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I update 3 or 4 times a week, and if you're subscribed, you'll get a notification every time I upload a video. Now, I'll see you in another case. Bye.